What's up, guys? Nick here, and today I'm going to be doing a little bit of something different. Today I want to talk about one of my favorite games, which is Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Now, I'm going to be comparing both of these games, and maybe even making it a series of comparing the story of both Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2, since I think both of those games have a fantastic story. And a lot of people think that the first game is better, but there are some people out there who actually think the second game is better. But as story-wise, I actually think the first game is better, but the second game has better gameplay. But it doesn't have a bad story, however. Anyway, today I'm going to be talking about the deaths of the protagonists in both Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2, and comparing the two. So, just a heads up, of course there's going to be spoilers. And I'm going to be comparing the two, discussing what happens before, how they are killed, what happens after, and the reactions and the consequences of what happens after each protagonist dies. So, let's start with Xenoblade Chronicles 1. In Xenoblade Chronicles 1, Shulk is about to make peace with Egil and have the Bionists and the Mechanists live in peace again. Now, this is then interrupted by Dixon, who shoots him in the back and basically just kills him right then and there, making sure that the Bionists and Mechanists will not be in peace. And so we find out later that Dixon is actually a disciple of Zanza, as pointed out by Egil, and is later shown as Zanza comes out of Shulk's body and is going to destroy all of humankind. But before he does that, he then wants to kill Lady Mayneth because she is the second god, and she also has a Monado to try and stop him. And so he does this by first attacking Fiora and Shulk's friends, and after that, Lady Mayneth comes out of or controls Fiora's body, and they start fighting until Lady Mayneth then dies, and Zanza then takes the second Monado and is even more powerful, and then disappears. After that, Egil also dies, and Shulk is just an empty vessel, as he then says, because Zanza apparently took over Shulk's body, and Shulk never existed to begin with, and that he basically revived Shulk and was controlling him the entire time, giving him visions, and making sure everything was according to plan. Also Dixon helping, making sure everything goes to plan, and that he will destroy the world and reset it, basically. And so he also does this by killing Lady Mayneth, and it is a very heartbreaking scene seeing Shulk die. And Dixon, who was a person that Shulk looked up to and was a guardian figure to Shulk, now backstabs him, basically, or back shoots him right in the back and kills him right then and there. And Zanza awakens and all hell breaks loose, basically. So yeah, this also happens towards the end of the game, where in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which we'll talk about later, happens in the very beginning of the game. So in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, this happens in the very beginning of the game. It is even spoiled in the trailers, which is really annoying that they spoil that Rex dies in the beginning of the trailer. But I guess it makes sense because it's in the first chapter of the game, which really doesn't make any sense. Why would you have the main protagonist die just right there in the beginning of the game? So what happens is Rex enters the room where the Aegis is hidden while she's still sleeping, and he can only open it since the door can only be opened by Adam's Crest, and I guess Malos, Jin, and the rest of Torna, I guess, including Nia, planned this because I guess they saw who Rex really was. And he is then warned by Malos to not touch the Aegis's blade, but he does so anyway. And with that, Jin just stabs him very fast, at the speed of light probably, like the power that he has, and just stabs him right then and there. Somehow there's no blood or anything, but I guess that's the same thing with Shulk's death, where he gets shot, but there's no blood or anything. But I guess to just keep the rating. But he then just stabs him, and he falls on the ground, and is dead, basically. Jin then says, "No mercy," and it was all just so that the Aegis would not be awakened. And it's just really weird and messed up that I just killed him right then and there. Also, the fact that Nia, who then joins our team, really doesn't do anything about it. She just asked, "Why'd you do it?" But she didn't really do anything. She just kind of went with them, because I guess their power was too strong at that time. Anyway, and I guess she didn't really know who Rex was, or had a good relationship with him at that time. Anyway, Rex is then sent to Elysium with Pyra, and Pyra then uses half of her life force to revive him, and he just revived just like that. So whereas in Xenoblade Chronicles 1, there is a good gap where Shulk is dead, and Shulk's friends basically have to go on without him, and have to go on without the Monato's power, and they realize that they were kind of depending on the Monato's power most of the time, and that now things are a lot harder without the Monato. Shulk then comes and reunites with his friends later on with a Monato replica and helps them out in a pretty epic scene. Now, where in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Rex is just revived right then and there. 5 seconds, he's been dead, that's it basically. And here it's like kind of a pretty big time. I think it, like, in the game it's like probably a couple days, but like in like real life it's probably like a couple hours of gameplay, which is a pretty good gap. And it's kind of sad, you know, you actually kind of think that Shulk might actually be dead, but you then see him resurrected by Alvis as he's in space as this empty husk basically, and he's then brought back to life to come and destroy Zanza and like become a god, because he was chosen to be a god, which is pretty epic. But in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, it's really just like, hey, I'm dead, can you revive me? Yeah, sure, okay. And that's pretty much it. Pyra's just like, yo, bring me to Elysium and I'll revive you. And then he's like, okay, and he doesn't even know, like, he doesn't know like which side is good, but yet he goes with Pyra, you know, because like Torna and Malice Jin and Nia, they could be taking Pyra because she might be bad and they want to take her to like destroy her or whatever, so that she doesn't destroy the world. But he doesn't know that, and yet he joins Pyra even though he barely even knows her, but I guess to revive himself and to bring her to Elysium. But he doesn't know what Elysium really is and if it's bad or not. Like, he just does it because he wants to. But in Xenoblade Chronicles 1, like, he's revived because Zanza, they see like all this bad stuff, because later on in the game, and a lot more happens like in this part, where in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, it's really just in the beginning of the game, and you have a lot of questions that you don't know. Where in Xenoblade Chronicles 1, like, you actually get a lot of like questions answered, like how come Shulk survived in that exploration when he was like 3 years old or whatever, and he was the only one with the Monado holding there. That's because Zanza took over Shulk and took Shulk and revived him and became inside of him, and to control the Monado and be able to have his plan to work. And so that gets answered, plus the fact of how the Monado like became and how Shulk can wield it is because Zanza is inside him, and the visions that I see is because of Zanza also. So all those questions get answered, but like in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, nothing really like gets, you got a lot more questions than answers, which I guess is also a good thing, but it's again kind of spoiled by the trailer that Rex dies, and you kind of wonder like, why did Jin kill Shulk? What is so good about this Aegis? And like later on in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, after Rex dies, he then comes with Pyra, and with the skills that he has with his other sword, he comes in and attacks Malos, and Malos is holding Pyra, and she basically just flames up and goes with Rex, and they start fighting Malos. Later on then, Dromark and Nia join Rex and Pyra and start kind of attacking Malos also. This part is really also confusing because there's also a lot more questions also that where Azurta comes in and he knows Malos and Jin, but yet he doesn't tell Rex, which is kind of weird that he doesn't tell Rex like who they are. Rex then finds out later on, but he doesn't really tell. He's not really the one who tells Rex, and yet he recognizes them and notices them and knows who they are, but yet he doesn't tell him, which is kind of weird, and it left me with questions. Why does Azurta know both Jin and Malos, and does he know, like, why did Jin kill Rex? And it's just really just weird. It just doesn't make any sense, and it's also just doesn't make any sense like why Jin killed him, and yet like Azurta doesn't tell him why he killed him and why that Malos is after the Aegis. I guess he doesn't know why he's after the Aegis, but he knows who he is because he recognizes them and knows their names and stuff. And it's just really weird why Jin wouldn't like kill him again just to stop this whole nonsense, because he obviously can't get revived again and that this is his last life, and yet Rex just goes in guns a-blazing, and yet he shouldn't really do that because this is his last chance in his last life, and that he has to go to Elysium. And yet like this part, like they fight each other, but I guess Rex learns later on that he's just going to Elysium and that the bad guys then just try and stop them, but he just kind of gives them mercy and just be like, I'm going to Elysium, I will just fight you guys, but I want to go to Elysium, I'm not going to chase after you guys. Even though you guys are bad and that you're trying to stop me, I'm just going to keep going and I'll fight you, but I'm not going to kill you, I'm just going to go try to get to Elysium. But yet here, when after he dies and he kind of realizes that he only has one more life left, he should have just left the ship basically, because he really just doesn't have a reason to fight these guys. He knows that they're more powerful than him. After like Malos like kind of beats him up when he's talking with Banna before that, and yet he still persists and fights Malos even though he knows that he's powerful and this is his last chance and that he could die again and die for good, which really doesn't make any sense. Shulk, on the other hand, when he goes and comes back to life after that hour or so of gameplay, he's a bit more cautious and gets help from his friends to protect himself. But here he really only has Pyra to protect himself. Nia and Dromark aren't really there protecting him because they're not really allies as much at that part. So he really doesn't have anyone on his side to protect him with, and yet he fights guns a-blazing anyway. And I guess because he feels like he has all this power with this Aegis that he has, but he has to know that it's Malos and Jin and kind of Nia, because Nia's still on Torna at that point, against him and Pyra, and his chances of winning are very odd, and yet he fights them anyway, which really it's just childless of him. And I guess it reflects on his personality of him being a child and how Nia and Malos kind of make fun of him of that and point that out, that he is a boy and that he is a child. But I still find it just kind of impatient and kind of just childish, I guess, but I mean, it reflects his personality, like I said. Anyway, though, that is the protagonist deaths of both Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2. Overall, I really like Xenoblade Chronicles 1's death, and it answers a lot of your questions. Plus, it's very epic, and just when you think things are over, you just have Zanza and Dixon, and they come in and they stop what you're about to do, which is create this piece, and yet that is stopped completely by Dixon and Zanza. And instead of having prime enemy number 1, Eggle, basically he is going to be on your side. Just when that happens, you have a new enemy who's Zanza and Dixon, and you have this entire rest of the story, which is a lot more, and yet it adds more story. That game could have ended right there with having peace with Eggle. It's just completely destroyed with Zanza and Dixon, where in Xenoblade Chronicles 1, first of all, it's spoiled in the trailer. Second of all, it's really kind of just stupid. It just happens in like a couple minutes. It's like, oh, I'm dead, I'm alive again. It's that simple. I mean, I guess it's a reason to meet with Pyra and to have a connection with her, having her life force, and having some significance towards the end, I guess, of where, since he is part of the core crystal, and that she kind of survives at the end. But it's just kind of lame in my opinion, comparing it to Xenoblade Chronicles 1. Anyway, I think I might talk about some other things in future episodes if you guys want me to, comparing Xenoblade Chronicles 1 versus 2, maybe with like some of the fake deaths like Emperor Nile and Fiora, or with some of the other things that happen both in Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2, like how there's 3 Aegises and there's 3 Monados. Things like that I might compare if you guys want me to. But yeah, like I said, these games, both of them are great. Both of them have great stories. If you haven't played them, well, you probably shouldn't be watching the rest of this video towards the end here. But if you haven't played them, they have great stories. And if you guys want me to share my thoughts of them more, let me know. I might actually do a review of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 because I haven't done that yet. Or maybe even 1 also, because I haven't done that either. I did a review of Xenoblade Chronicles X, but I didn't do a review on either of those two because I didn't really have enough time. But this is just a little video of my thoughts of the protagonist deaths in both Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2. So thank you guys all for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned for more Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2 footage or thoughts and feelings right here on the Town Nick. Bye.